He was a conceptual illustrator of the human condition.
Also interesting is that Alice is associated with water, or the waves, as in the number 3, and William is associated with concrete land, or the object, the number 1. And hereby I make the assumption that Helena is the heart character, the heart that is both spirit and matter. We already saw that Helena was the heart of the family, as her name consists of 13 letters, which places her at the center of the Harford family, as William and Alice Harford consist of 12 and 14 letters respectively. Also, Helena is presented in the middle of Alice and William, but that's something for later on. Let's first watch all the shots in which Helena is presented. First of all, there are exactly 13 shots of Helena where she is seen at home. Then there are another 3 shots of her outside the apartment at the end of the movie. The 3-part harmony seems to play an important role, which interestingly can be connected to the number 13, the 3 parts inside one whole. The first time Helena appears, she is presented in 3 shots. Then in the music sequence, Helena is presented 5 times, and at the 3rd time we see her, she is presented in a series of 3 shots. Again, the number 3 and the 3-part harmony are emphasized. Also interesting is that in the series of 3 shots, Helena first is seen at the left, then at the right, and eventually at the center of the family. The 9th time we see Helena is preceded by a shot of William, who walks towards Helena's room. William takes exactly 13 steps before he stands still to take a look at Helena. What's interesting in this shot is that Helena is placed between 2 clowns, a blue and a red clown. When the colors red and blue are combined, one gets the color purple. So purple is the color of both red and blue. Therefore it's interesting that we see a purple princess, although in this light it makes the appearance of purple, and the purple princess represents Helena. The color purple also is presented as a combination of red and blue right here in this shot. And here we see William first passing a blue door, and then he stands right in front of a red door. Therefore a woman in purple passes William and Domino. And it's Domino who's also dressed in purple. So what's important is that Helena is introduced by 13 steps, as she herself is the number 13. Also important is that Helena is placed in the middle, just as the number 13 lies in the middle of the 12, 13, 14 sequence of the Harford family. Also we see a subtle heart shape. The double bow is made by Helena's shadow. The heart's point is made by Helena's elbow, just as Alice's elbow makes the point of the heart in this shot. The bed itself could be seen as the joint between waking and sleeping, or dreaming. Therefore it could be that the bed is strongly associated with the heart, as the heart also is a joint between 2 circulation loops. In the final shot of Carrie, the bed also is associated with the heart, as the bed is presented in the shape of the heart. One can even say that the heart is beating. Back to the Harford's apartment. William walks away from Helena's room. And right when he makes his 13th step, we see the shape of the heart, right here. Which we can also see here, as the heart symbol is presented in a very similar way. In this shot, Helena again functions as the joint, or the heart of the family, as William first makes contact with Helena, and then greets Alice. So William, being the number 14, first has to make contact with the number 13 in order to get to the number 12. Here, Helena again is presented in the middle, while she says the word watchdog.
But he could be a watchdog.
The whole principle of the watchdog had something to do with conscience, which is a quality of the heart, but that's something for later on. William then replies to Helena,
We'll see.
We will see. We will see is similar to you see both.
You see boat.
We will see implies a shared vision, a vision of both. Also, we see the number 3 right here, which subconsciously is associated with the straight bars of the chairs, which represent the number 1. In this way, the number 13 is subtly associated with Helena. Also, of course, Helena's hair is red, and when you combine this with her blue sweater, you get the color purple. And right in the last shot, we see Helena at home. She and Alice point with their pencils at William's heart. Another clue that Helena is the heart is that her hair very often is both on the front side as on the back side. Helena's hair seems to be on both places at the same time. Another last thing which could be seen as a reference to the heart is that Helena's hair is braided. This again is a reference to the heart being a joint, the place at which two things are united. Helena is associated with the heart because she embodies the character of the heart. We see this also in this shot. The sunlight, the name Helena means light or bright, makes the shape of the heart onto Helena's hair. Again, we see the combination of red and blue, which suggests the color purple, the color of both, which is seen right here. Also, Helena holds the brush right in front of her heart. In this shot, we see little black hearts printed onto Helena's bathrobe. Also, Helena holds a spoon, which is an instrument. In the next shot, we see William also holding an instrument, which he uses to listen to the heart. So again, Helena is associated with the heart. Also, Helena is placed at the left side of the screen. In the next shot, we see a cable at the left side of the screen, which makes 13 curls on the left side. A final example of how Helena is associated with the heart we see in this shot. The first time Helena appears in the movie, we hear Ross saying,
"You look amazing, Mrs. Harford."
Oh.
Right when we hear the har of the name Harford, which sounds like heart, Helena moves into the frame.
"You look amazing, Mrs. Harford."
Oh.
And when William and Alice leave the apartment, William says sweetheart to Helena.
Good night, sweetheart.
And most interestingly, Helena is sitting on a red couch, which has 4 compartments. Just as our own heart has 4 compartments or 4 rooms. As we look at the heart as an organ, we see that it functions as a joint in the middle of a double circulatory system. One circuit is the system circuit and goes through the body. The other circuit is the pulmonary circuit and goes through the lungs. So one circuit is associated with matter, the body, and the other is associated with air, the spirit, you could say. Now watch this situation. Helena, the heart, is joining matter, the object, the number 1, and spirit, the wave, the number 3. We also see this in this shot, for example. Both their names consist of 13 letters. Therefore, they embody the heart, and therefore they join both matter and spirit. Both the number 1 and the number 3. Also, back in this shot, we see a red couch, which represents the heart, while we hear Helena saying,
"Be good, baby. Bye."
Again, the heart is associated with bothness, as it combines both William and Alice. And of course, both words, Daddy and Mommy, are spoken by Helena, who embodies the character of the heart. The heart always lies at the center, as it joins 2 things. For example, Millich's daughter wears a heart-shaped ring, which is held at the center of the image. We see Millich's daughter and William being joined right at the center of the frame. Again, the heart is the joint, which lies at the center to connect both male and female. Here again, Alice holds a glass champagne against her heart, while she passes Sandor Savost, the number 13, the heart, right at the center of the frame. Eventually it's Savost who drinks the glass of champagne right at the center of the frame, which means that the heart, in this case the champagne, is both male and female. It's something which is shared. Which leads us to the resemblance between the number 13, the symbol of the heart, and the heart as an organ. All can be related to what Jung said about what it means to be human. We already saw that the number 3, the wave, represented the female character, and the number 1 represented the male character. Yet, as we can see in the yin-yang symbol, the female also is present inside the male as a feminine side, and the male also is present in the female as a masculine side. So what we have here is a conjunction of male and female. Yet the male also has a feminine side, and the female also has a masculine side. So male and female are joined, yet each individual has an inner joint in his or herself already. We can also see this in the number 13. When we draw a horizontal line through this number, we get two bows which are connected to two straights. So like this, the number 13 in its own way represents the female conjoined with the male, and the inner conjunction in both male and female. The symbol of the heart, in its own way, represents male and female conjoined, yet inside both male and female already is an inner joint. This phenomenon is also exposed in this picture. We see Kubrick emphasizing the inner joint, which looks like the letter J. The inner joint we also see in this shot, for example. And it's the inner joint, or J, which is joined at its turn with another J. Then finally, the heart as an organ also joins the female, or the atriums, with the male, the ventricles. In this way, the heart is both an inner and an outer joint. An inner and an outer joint. Also, the atriums, the female, is joined to the ventricles, the male, through the circulatory system. And as we already saw, one system is male and goes through the body, the matter, the object, and the other system is female as it goes through the lungs, the air, the spirit. So in this way, the heart indeed is the place at which female and male are united. It is the place of both female and male. So in this way, Eyes Wide Shut is about the joint between female and male. Therefore, male and female are presented in a switching mode. It's not really about male meeting female, it's more about male being female. What's emphasized is both particle and wave, both object and subject. Which gets us to the last three shots of Helena. What's obvious in these shots is that Helena is the only one of the three Harfords who acts spontaneously. Also is Helena who moves in and out of the frame, as if she, very playfully, switches from object to subject. Also, Helena is placed in the middle of the Harford family. Yet the most interesting thing is that Helena looks right at us, the audience, just before she runs out of the frame, just before she switches from object to subject. Also, of course, the act of looking directly at the audience in itself is an act of switching from object to subject. It's Helena who embodies both spirit and matter. The Barbie doll is framed. Helena is outside of the frame. The Barbie doll stresses the double nature by holding one arm up into the spirit and one arm down into the matter. The last time we see Helena, she again is placed in the middle, in the area of male-female interplay, inside the switch mode. First we see the number 3, the wave, as a fold on William's coat. Alice now is stressing the straight number 1. And then when William stretches his arm to make a straight number 1 again, Alice's arm bows to make a number 3. So this is how the 1 and the 3, male and female, constantly switch, and this switching between 1 and 3 is represented by the number 13, which is embodied by Helena, who is placed in the middle, at the heart of the family. Which takes us to a bit of a strange situation. At the moment Helena turns her head, you could ask yourself, is Helena looking at Alice, or is she looking at us, at the audience? Or the third option, is she looking at both Alice and us? In a strange way, this construction reminds of the front cover of Eyes Wide Shut. Here, William's attention is focused at Alice. Alice is looking at us. As we know, Alice and William represent the number 12 and 14 respectively. So in a way, you as the audience, who is looking at both Alice and William, are the one in the middle, and therefore you are the number 13, as you are the observer of both, as in you see both.
You see boat.
So if you go back to this shot, we get a rather strange construction. Just like the front cover, it's William focusing at Alice. But now Alice is looking at Helena instead of you. But Helena, just like you, is the number 13. And it's Helena who's not only looking at Alice, but also at you. So in this sense, you and Helena are redeemable, as your perspective is in switching mode with that of Helena. Helena looks at you. You look at Helena. You and Helena, so to speak, are moving to and fro between object and subject. Now you could ask yourself, what's the importance of this? What's the importance of the suggestion that Helena is us? Well, the continuous switch between object and subject reminds of something Kubrick wrote about movie making. Here, Kubrick quite obviously explains how the constant switch between conception and execution, or the constant switch between the wave and the particle, the 3 and the 1, gives him a sense of elation. Kubrick stresses the importance of the collaboration, the process, the constant modification, the to and fro between conception and execution. In other words, Kubrick stresses the importance of both. The thing that Kubrick gave a great sense of elation is bothness. And therefore it seems that Kubrick lets us experience this bothness through his movies. In movie making, it's a to and fro between conception and execution. In movie watching, it's a to and fro between a movie and the observer. And the place where the movie and the observer are joined or united is right in the middle. So Helena looking at you means you looking at Helena, which is a moment that logically goes straight through the heart, as the heart itself is the ultimate joint. Yet, this does not mean that you and Helena are actually united. The great sense of elation comes from a to and fro between, not from the experience of eternal unity. Therefore Helena walks away from you. And it's exactly this walking away that gives this sense of elation. It's the to and fro, not the unity.
I never did understand why you walked away.
No? It's a nice feeling. I do it a lot.
As stressed by Nick Nightingale, it's the moment when you walk away from things which gives you a nice feeling, or as Kubrick said, a great sense of elation. And this has everything to do with making the right choice in a certain situation, with temptations on your left and on your right. It's the moment you walk away that gives you the sense of elation. William walking away from the two models is a satisfying moment.
Do you have to go?
Do you have to go?
I think I do.
William leaving Domino seems to be an unsatisfying experience, yet it's because it is not satisfying that it is satisfying. Again, this has everything to do with making the right choice. Making the right choice has everything to do with our hearts. William takes 13 steps to see Helena, the heart. His point of view becomes our point of view. What we see is a reflection of the heart, what we see is our conscience. Conscience has to do with right actions. It's a combination of action and thought, of matter and spirit. It's a combination of the actual object and the virtual wave, a combination of the 1 and the 3, which come together in the heart, the number 13.
But he could be a watchdog.
The heart indeed, as Helena says, is a watchdog. Synonyms for watchdog are supervisor, guardian, babysitter. Synonyms for conscience are superego, principles, and inner voice.
All these other people around us.
William is the watchdog, who reflects onto his condition to become aware of his conscience, which is seated into his heart, Helena. Interestingly, Helena looks very innocent. Now there is a book entitled Conscience l'Innocent, written by Alexandre Dumas. What's interesting is that Helena, at the beginning of the movie, wants to watch
The Nutcracker?
and it was Dumas who wrote The Nutcracker as an adaptation of Hoffman's story The Nutcracker and the Mouse King. In Conscience l'Innocent, there is a great spontaneity, a freshness in the feelings and behaviors of the protagonists. The main protagonist's name is Conscience the Innocent, because he does not know how to lie. He takes life as it comes. Helena is like Conscience the Innocent. Helena makes the impression that she doesn't know how to lie. She takes life as it comes. She is spontaneous.
Hi, Daddy.
Hi.
Helena pretty much embodies everything William should be. Therefore, Helena is William's conscience. Schopenhauer considered that the good conscience we experience after an unselfish act verifies that our true self exists outside our physical person. And I think that in Eyes Wide Shut, this is translated onto the screen. It seems to be that the middle of the screen is the place of the unselfish act. It's the place which is characterized by bothness, by sharing, by interaction, by the interplay between female and male. Therefore, the screen's central part is the place of the heart. It's the place where our conscience becomes sensible. Steven Spielberg defined Stanley Kubrick as follows.
As a filmmaker, for me, he was a conceptual illustrator of the human condition.
Now, of course, you can say a lot about the human condition, but I think it's safe to say that human beings find themselves in an in-between situation. Just as William is between his mirror and his shadow image, we find ourselves in an in-between state. Just like Helena, the heart, finds herself between spirit and matter, we as human beings are a combination of spirit and matter. Right after Lieutenant Corby says,
You see boat?
Mac says,
Don't tell me she doesn't even understand you.
and right when Mac says the word you,
Don't tell me she doesn't even understand you.
the film cuts to this shot, where we see the man and the woman standing in between two trees. Now what I think is that the two trees represent the two worlds, or the two states in which we find ourselves as human beings. We as human beings join the two trees. In this way the you in human being is very appropriate. We as human beings join the two worlds in which we find ourselves. We find ourselves between the spiral and the rectangle, the elusive subject and the reflecting object. The spiral is represented by the spiral-shaped ornament in the background and by Nuala's spiral-shaped hairlock. The reflecting rectangle is represented by Gail's dress with all the little reflecting particles. William finds himself between both Nuala, the elusive subject, and Gail, the reflecting object. Both subject and object are joined in William's heart, which lies in the middle. And that's why we get a sense of elation when we choose to stay in the middle, when we choose to stay true to our heart, and choose to walk away from non-human temptations, which are either too spiritual or too physical. It was director Tony Palmer who defined the core of Eyes Wide Shut as follows.
We are hopeless, muddled, fallible, desperate, needing love human beings. And in the end, I think that's what is the central quality of his films. He tells us about human beings as we are, not as we'd like to imagine that we are.
Eyes Wide Shut seems to be Kubrick's most intimate way of presenting this in-between human condition, where ambiguity is inevitable, as Kubrick said himself. We as human beings already have an ambiguous perspective, a perspective of both, a joint perspective. That's why Lieutenant Corby looks straight at you when he says,
You see boat?
and that's why Alice looks straight at you, at the one who sees both. Because we find ourselves in middle ground, our perspective has a blind spot right in the middle, because that's where we are. As human beings, we can only watch outwards to see the two worlds in which we find ourselves. That's why our mind can only see one image at a time. Our mind switches from one perspective to another. Just like Jack switches from the young woman. And that's why I think that we watch Eyes Wide Shut from the perspective of the heart. And that's why everything in Eyes Wide Shut is characterized by bothness, the thing in between the things we see. Eyes Wide Shut seems to present our own condition in such a way that the audience and the movie are in a continuous loop.
Now listen, you know we're running a little late.
You know we're running a little late, as in, you know we're running a little 8. It's again a to and fro between the audience and the movie. Just like William runs a little 8 with Alice, we are running a little 8 with Eyes Wide Shut. It's not about us, it's not about the movie, it's about both, if you allow both yourself and the movie to do so.